Zombies in D&D are a nightmare, and not the right kind. But you, DM, can turn that frown upside down. Okay, that was corny, but whether you're a DM or a player, you know what I'm talking about. Instead of a horrifying fight for survival against the undead, zombie encounters are usually just boring, unending combat slogs. And unlike the other low-level monsters we've talked about in this series, most of the time, it's not your fault. Zombies just suck. Hey there, adventurers. My name is Judd, and this is Short Rest Studios, where we believe that fun builds community. This is the fourth and final video in this series on low-level monsters, but I would love to do some more. If there are monsters you'd like me to give this treatment, let me know in the comments. Yeah, as a DM, zombies are one of my least favorite monsters to run, and they seem to pop up in every published D&D adventure. Walking corpses should be scary, but the way they're designed in 5e, they are anything but. I'm going to share some ideas to make them more frightening, to make zombie encounters more intense, but I think the most effective way to plan a zombie encounter is to make it hilarious.
And hold it there.
Stick around and I'll show you how. It's lore dump time. In D&D, zombies are undead creatures with no mind of their own that are created through necromancy. They're usually made out of humanoid corpses, but basically any corpse can be reanimated this way. A zombie moves with unnatural lurching motions. They still wear the decaying clothes they wore at the time of their death or were buried in, and they still bear the wounds that killed them. Imagine a stumbling, reanimated corpse with the stump of a crossbow bolt penetrating its gory eye socket. It stinks of rot, and the rags of once fine clothing dangle from its shoulders. While it still bears some of the outward evidence of its former life, a zombie is no tortured soul. It doesn't remember anything of its former life. In fact, it has absolutely no memories, no thoughts, no imagination. It just has a single purpose: to follow the simplest of orders from its creator, or in the absence of orders, to kill anything alive that crosses its path. They don't need air, food, water, or sleep. Just something to kill. If a zombie is left alone, it will literally just stand there and decompose until something living comes its way. Then it'll take the most direct route to attack without hesitation or fear. They are not fast or clever. Zombies are going to lurch straight toward their targets, even if it means walking through fire or sinking in a river or falling off a cliff. And this will come in handy later. They're not tactical. They're just relentless in their pursuit of the living. Zombies can be raised by spells or rise spontaneously in areas that are soaked in dark magic. And once you get turned into one, well, you're not coming back. Unless someone uses some serious magic like resurrection. And now let's check out the stat block. As usual, I'm using the 2014 Monster Manual here. Zombies have an AC of only 8, 22 hit points, and a speed of 20 feet. They're slow, and they're supposedly easy to kill. Dex, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma are all dismally low, so low as to be detriments to their survival, but they're actually pretty strong with a 13, giving them a +1 strength bonus. Constitution is a zombie's key stat. It comes in at 16, giving them a +3. Zombies are immune to poison for what ought to be obvious reasons. I mean, dude, they're already dead. They have dark vision, but their passive perception is only an 8, which means under the right circumstances, your players could sneak up on a zombie. A zombie's attack is pretty basic. It can slam an enemy within 5 feet with a +3 to hit for 1d6 +1 bludgeoning damage. Not a ton of damage unless, zombie horde. But what makes a zombie such an actual nightmare is its Undead Fortitude from the Monster Manual. If damage reduces the zombie to 0 hit points, it must make a Constitution saving throw with a DC of 5 plus the damage taken, unless the damage is radiant or from a critical hit. On a success, the zombie drops to 1 hit point instead. At the lowest levels, when PCs aren't doing much damage, this means it's nearly impossible for them to kill a zombie, at least with the first quote-unquote killing blow. What do I mean? Imagine your party has been fighting a gaggle of zombies for a few rounds. Your fighter lands a glancing blow for 2 damage, but it's enough to bring the zombie to 0 HP. The zombie rolls a d20 with a +3 for a DC 7 con save. The odds are in its favor. An attack has to do at least 9 damage, which isn't outside the realm of possibility, but it's pretty difficult for low-level characters before you can be reasonably sure the zombie is down. When the zombie succeeds on that save, it is true it only comes back up to 1 hit point, but there's no limit to how many times it can roll that save. It could conceivably make its way back multiple times, and that's where it just becomes a freaking slog for your players. But there are ways to make these encounters terrifying instead. First, plan your environment well. One of the first zombie encounters I ever ran was in the classic starter set adventure Lost Mine of Phandelver. I love that adventure, but there are frankly too many zombies in it, and every time I turn around they keep popping back up. Seems appropriate. Anyway, in part 3 of that adventure, there's an encounter with an evil mage at Old Owl Well. The mage has a dozen zombies hanging out in a crumbling watchtower. It's not nighttime. You don't have to go into the watchtower to fight them, and if you did, you'd be packed in there like sardines, which could absolutely be horrifying. But there's really nothing in this encounter that plays to the zombies' strengths, except their numbers. And having a lot of zombies is one way to make the encounter more intense. The problem is that when they keep coming back, the battle just keeps getting longer. They're not scary. They just get boring, and so much of it has to do with the environment. Put your zombies in a dungeon or an abandoned mansion or a cavern system. Take away the light so that they have the advantage of dark vision. And maybe your players have a torch, but torches have a limited range and they can go out. If they don't have a torch or another light source, even better. Don't light the rooms, but leave a stash of candles or a lantern somewhere the PCs can find it. They have a limited range and can only be used for a limited time. The dark is inherently scary. Imagine, the party enters a room deep in a dark dungeon. The light of their candles only reaches a few feet into what feels like a massive chamber. The wizard notes a scent of death and decay, but they see nothing. Then a shuffling sound emerges from the darkness. Slowly, humanoid forms enter the circles of light shed by their candles. Their faces are rotted. Their limbs are mangled. They move with a slow, stumbling gait inexorably toward the party. That's scary, right? And don't over-explain. If your players have faced zombies in D&D before, they may already know how they operate. But like Keith Amon says in The Monsters Know What They're Doing, Dungeons and Dragons zombies aren't like television zombies. They're not trying to eat your wizard, and if the bard gets bitten, she won't turn into one of them. But your players, especially if they're new to D&D or just to zombies in D&D, don't know that. And there's no need for them to. Play it up. Let them think they're going to get eaten or turned. They'll be scared to death. One trick I like, which is also something Amon suggests, is if a zombie gets to 0 HP and then succeeds on its Undead Fortitude con save, have it fall to the ground dead, but immediately get back up again. They'll think they've killed it, and the realization that they didn't will make it feel like the stakes have just gone up. Another way to heighten the horror factor is to find a reason for the PCs to be without their weapons during a zombie encounter. Maybe there are weapons, improvised or otherwise, lying around that they can use if they get their hands on them, but the battle begins with your players in the terrifying position of facing a zombie horde unarmed. Something I've toyed with is putting a limit on Undead Fortitude by maybe rolling a d6 at the beginning of combat and letting that dictate how many times a zombie can come back before it's done for good. The truth is that bringing in an ogre zombie or something that does a little more damage might raise the excitement level, but it's really hard to make D&D zombies actually scary without altering them quite a bit. People do it, but I think zombies are actually more effective when you give your players the kind of options that can make the encounter hilarious. Adventurers, I'm a huge fan of Into the AM's graphic tees. I'm wearing one now, and that's why they're today's sponsor. These tees are super comfortable, high quality, and they fit great. And graphic tees aren't all. Into the AM has polos, flannels, underwear, and their incredibly comfortable all-day pants, which I'm also wearing right now. Everything your wardrobe needs, all created with the same quality and care. Head to intotheam.com/shortreststudios to get 10% off your order today. So here's what I promised you at the beginning of the video. As much as I generally hate zombies, one of my favorite memories from running Lost Mine of Phandelver came during one of the ash zombie encounters in Thunder Tree. The zombies were in a building which our half-elf wizard set on fire. Then our halfling rogue hurled a handful of ball bearings into the building as the zombies were trying to escape it and attack the party. Hilarity ensued. Zombies are falling all over the place, catching fire, getting shot down by arrows. It was like Looney Tunes in there. It was great. This is a great rule of thumb for any combat encounter, but give your players opportunities to cause absolute chaos with zombies and they will not disappoint. Put hazards in the way, like a fire or something your PCs can set on fire. A zombie will walk right through it to get to a PC, thereby setting fire to itself and doing half the party's work for them. Give one or two of the zombies weapons and allow them to be disarmed at some point, because once they drop a weapon, they're too dumb to pick it back up. And you could put weapons all over the room. They'll never grab one, but your players can. Put a yawning chasm or an open window at the edge of the battlefield. It would be really easy for a smart PC to lure a zombie into a fatal fall. Find creative ways for the party to exploit the zombie's weaknesses, and it'll make for some of the most ridiculous and memorable encounters in your campaign. I've asked you this on every video in this series, but I really want to know. Tell me about your favorite encounters with so-called easy monsters in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and want more of this kind of content, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and please consider supporting this channel by joining the Adventurers Guild at patreon.com/shortreststudios or by hitting the join button under this video. If you're looking for more advice on running low-level monsters, check out these videos, and I'll see you next time on Short Rest Studios.